Thank you, Stafford, and thank you very much for inviting me here today to hear about my experience. I just want to correct Stafford slightly. He said that Moulscombe is a long way from Tottenham, but actually Moulscombe is an exceptionally deprived council housing estate in Brighton, where I was born and grown up. So personally, I feel I've come a long way to be from such a working class background to actually be in the House of Lords now. I'm the odd person out in the House of Lords for lots of reasons, but I'm also the odd person out on this panel because, as Stafford just said, I don't have core participant status. And that's because Pitchford feels I wasn't spied on by undercover police, I was only spied on by the ordinary police. And therefore that doesn't qualify. I'm also the odd person out because I haven't been distressed by being spied on. I haven't had my life disrupted, been through the emotional mangle. Quite honestly, for a Green Party politician, being spied on is almost a mark of effectiveness and relevance to what's happening in Britain. And even being arrested is, you know, it's a tick in the right box, quite honestly, in the Green Party. So even if when I was arrested it was only for 3 minutes because the crowd started saying, do you know who she is? But I started asking questions. It was only in about 2008, 2009, I started asking questions of the police. I was sitting on the police authority at the time. I was an elected member of the London Assembly. I was a fine, upstanding citizen, in my view. I'm fairly law-abiding. I even stop at red lights on my bike. So personally, I didn't feel that this was anything to do with me. It was just a human rights, civil liberties issue, and I started asking questions. I then, in 2013, somebody on my team said, why don't you find out if you've got a file of any sort? So I put in a subject to access request. You pay £10, answer a very long series of questions. And when it came back, I found that I was actually tagged as a domestic extremist. Now, I would have been very disappointed not to have that file, quite honestly. But at the same time, I was absolutely furious that the Met had been spying on me. What a waste of resources, what a waste of time. And I thought it was actually quite offensive that they would spy on somebody who clearly had a role in trying to hold them to account. So I was delighted and furious at the same time. In 2013, after I found out I had a file, I also got them to acknowledge that any definition of a domestic extremist ought to include the term serious criminal activity, which of course is patently untrue for the majority of people that they have been spying on. In 2015, I applied again for my subject access request because I thought, because they'd promised, well, no, they refused to say whether or not I had a file anymore, and it was very difficult getting it. So I applied again for the file, and I found out, indeed, they had continued spying on me in spite of the new definition. I then met with a domestic extremist unit, I can never remember all their names, or all the iterations they've gone through, and explained to them how angry I was, and how I would be asking for more information. A whistleblower then contacted me, a police whistleblower, to his credit, contacted me to say that he had seen them deleting files on me. So 2 days after I'd met with the domestic extremist unit police officers, he saw them in the office deleting files. And I still haven't got to the bottom of that either. Apparently they delete files routinely, and there was nothing suspicious about it at all. So my view is generally that this is a section of the police that is still out of control. There's not enough accountability, there's not enough oversight, and really, this sort of campaign that you've all undertaken now is probably the only way that we will ever get any sort of justice for the people whose lives have been so disrupted, so disturbed. And so I do want to say, in spite of not being a core participant, I am absolutely 100% behind this campaign and hope to stay fully engaged so that I can agitate as much as I have in the past, but this time through the House of Lords. Thank you.